Grappling Bulletin fans, welcome back for another episode featuring myself, Howell Teague, joined today by Corey Stockton. This is the beginning of Chase Smith's convalescence period. We wish him all the best as he goes under the knife tomorrow to repair a pretty serious jiu-jitsu related injury. But it happens, right?
Stay away from jiu-jitsu. It's only going to get you hurt.
Yeah, right. They say it's good for you. But man, it has been a huge week for news, right? Some big news came out last week. And yes, of course, if you look at the title of today's podcast, then kind of giving something away, but we'll touch on that in just a second, because one thing I wanted to bring up first is about, dude, we announced the 155 pound bracket for the Who's Number One Championships.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been sitting on it for a little bit, but I'm happy that we can finally talk about it with everybody else, everybody watching on, right? Because there's so many exciting names. I mean, where do you start? Kennedy Maciel, Josh Cisneros, Mikey Musumeci. There's not a name on that list that doesn't make me think that they could win the whole thing.
It has been hard. It has been really hard to not say anything about this bracket because, of course, you know, we've been working on this and putting this together for a while, right? And man, it's been eating at me. I just want to share it with the world. And it's like you say, it's like, but now it's out. Now it's out. And the response has been incredible. I mean, let's take a little look, first of all, I think, at the actual, the list of names that we announced. And then maybe what we can do is we can just sort of talk about that, because we're not going to break down the full division or like go into a full like bracket or anything like that. You know, that Who's on One podcast on Wednesday, I'm sure they'll talk about it in great depth. But possibly the most loaded 155 pound division that we've ever seen. Mikey Musumeci, Cade Ruotolo, Gio Martinez, Diego Oliveira, aka Pato, Cole Obate, Ethan Krellinston, Josh Cisneros, and Kennedy Maciel. There's a pretty wild mix of talents. You've got guys who have fought as low as 135, and obviously guys from the 145 and the 155 pound division combined. A real mix of up-and-comers. I mean, you've got the teenage Cole Obate, 16 years of age, up against, you know, veterans like Gio Martinez, a three-time ADCC veteran, an ADCC silver medalist, and a no-gi world champion, Kennedy Maciel. It's a bit of everything in that division, right? Yeah,
and it's really still surprising to me how few people are counting Cole Obate out, right? I mean, so many people look at the Cole post and think, yeah, he's gonna win this bracket. Okay, but there's Pato. Yeah, he might win the bracket too. Okay, but you know,
there's Kennedy,
every single
Gio,
person in this division has the potential to win it, and it's only gonna get better as we start announcing everybody else involved.
This week, stay tuned. We already dropped the first name earlier this morning, but the 115 pound women's division, we're going to announce the same thing. 2 names every day from now through to the end of the week until all 8 names confirmed. And after that, well, we're just going to keep announcing a new division every week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Super excited for this. But hey, you want to take a look at the list of names, go to FloGrappling.com. Of course, the tournament goes down at the end of September, but big things are happening in the world of jiu-jitsu, because the Danaher Death Squad, the well-known no-gi jiu-jitsu team headed by John Danaher, and with members as esteemed members such as Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonon, Craig Jones, Nicky Rodriguez, Nicky Ryan, Ethan Krellinston, Oliver Taza. Just loaded lineup is to be disbanded. The Danaher Death Squad is no more. So this was something of a shock. John Danaher broke the news via an Instagram post just yesterday, right? Yesterday afternoon. And I think that it was like a nuclear bomb going off, because this is one of those things that people, they genuinely just did not see coming, right?
Yeah, it absolutely shocked the whole world. And I think specifically because the DDS is and has always been such a point of interest in the jiu-jitsu community, right? It's something that people watch very closely. What happens with them? What are they doing? And it's because they've been so innovative throughout the years.
It's safe to say that they changed the face of no-gi jiu-jitsu. Over the last 5-6 years, the Danaher Death Squad have done more to develop no-gi jiu-jitsu, not just as an art, because of course they came in and they genuinely revolutionized no-gi jiu-jitsu competition through their proficiency with the leg locks, what were considered a pretty esoteric, exotic technique, sometimes, you know, pretty low percentage for the majority of people. Leg locks weren't just a fashion. They were demonstrated to be an extremely high percentage technique that nobody could go through their career without not just knowing and understanding, but being proficient in. And that impact has just rolled out to the entire grappling community. I remember very well in the 2019 ADCC West Coast trials that looking around 6 mats simultaneously, it was like every single person in action during that moment had been watching John Danaher's leg lock DVDs because they were all going for the same systematized series of attacks. And I think that legacy will live on, right?
Absolutely, it will. And you know, we don't know what's happening with any members on the squad or with Danaher himself, but you know, I think it changed the way that people even approach jiu-jitsu, approach studying and thinking about jiu-jitsu, and really kind of bringing into the zeitgeist this idea of systematizing moves and techniques.
Yeah, John Danaher himself, obviously, you know, is one of the greatest thinkers in jiu-jitsu. You know, and he's not only a great coach, you know, he is a great mind. But whereas there are many great minds in jiu-jitsu, he's by no means the only one. There are an amazing coaches, and always have been in jiu-jitsu, doing incredible things, technically speaking. But John was able to communicate that with a clarity that perhaps we'd never seen before. You know, his ability to directly communicate via his social media channels with the jiu-jitsu community was, unparalleled in sharing his thoughts, sharing his ideas, and creating a culture that perhaps was very different to what been before. But then, of course, let's talk about the results. You know, it's all well and good talking about jiu-jitsu. There are many people who talk about jiu-jitsu, but if you're not backing it up, then, you know, it's a waste of time. John, of course, you know, he's older, has, you know, made no secret of the various physical limitations and injuries that he suffered in his time. He was never a competitor, but he was always a good coach. And one thing that he did was he had a very powerful, not a particularly large team, but a team that had a much larger impact than maybe some would have expected, right?
Yeah, of course. And I think it was because it was this group of what started as maybe 2 or 3 athletes really going on to EBI. We're talking about Eddie Cummings and Gary Tonin back in 2014, 2015, when EBI was really reaching its original popularity. And Eddie Cummings and Gary Tonin went out basically every weekend and submitted everybody or near everybody on the way up, and really brought these 2 guys out of what was then the Renzo Gracie team and created this bombshell that was the DDS. And of course, Gordon Ryan, I think, elevated that to another level. But yeah, it's the small group of guys that just exploded.
Yeah, and John paid tribute to some of those names as well that had been so influential and such a big part of the team's success. I thought it was very interesting, actually, that that he mentioned some of the most notable names going back a solid, as you say, sort of 6, even 7 years, right? Signaling out some athletes such as, there was Gary Tonin, of course. There was Gordon Ryan. And of course, Gary had much success in EBI rules and was one of the first sort of high-profile members of the Danaher Death Squad. And one of the best known black belts to compete under John. And following him, of course, there was Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan came through and was the brash up and comer. Technically he was a student of Gary's when he first started training with John, and came on the scene as a brown belt and made some extremely impressive statements, shall we say, and then went on to back it up by winning 3 gold medals at the ADCC and double gold at IBJJF World No Gi, and you name it. It hasn't not a lot that he hasn't done. Craig Jones joined the team as a fully formed black belt, but went on to become a really beloved pupil of John Danaher, actually, because John always talked about his affinity for people from down under, being a New Zealander himself, and Craig being from Australia. But I think a massive respect for Craig's jiu-jitsu, and we saw Craig's jiu-jitsu just evolve so much the time that from the moment that he joined John's squad through to nowadays. But then, of course, going back as well, this Eddie Cummings was one of the original pioneers of the leg lock movement, and one of the best examples of that in competition. Nicky Ryan, Nick Rodriguez, and many others. very interesting to note, that all of these guys had very different and yet very important contributions to the success of the team. But what does that mean for the future of the Danaher Death Squad? Well, the truth is we don't know. Exactly where people will be going and how the team will split remains to be seen. We believe that Gordon, from what he posted on Instagram, literally as we were walking into the studio just now, that Gordon has said that the rumors are true, that I am moving to Austin, Texas, and I'm opening an academy with those who are just deciding to stay with me. So Gordon's own words now, I'm quoting Gordon directly. There is uncertainty about who will go where as of now, but one thing that is for sure is that I have an undeniable connection with my Texas fans, and there's nothing in this world I love more than teaching those who support and love me. So yeah, Gordon's always been pretty open about his desire to relocate to Texas at some point in the future. And now it seems that is official. He's going to be coming right here to Austin, Texas. Of course, he's been coming back and forth here a lot over the last year or so. But that's interesting that Gordon seems ready to open a school.
Yeah, and I imagine a lot of the athletes who compete on Who's Number One or on our events pretty frequently all call Texas a little bit of home. So whether it's somebody like Gordon or even Mikey Musumeci says this to me every once in a while, that it's like I'm coming back to my second home. Right?
So of course there's a ton of chatter going on right now on our live YouTube, and I think it'd be worthwhile just taking a look at some of the comments here, because people are genuinely intrigued as to where they're going to end up, where the various athletes are going to end up. And the truth is we just don't know. Is that will we see the team split into multiple groups, or will just one or two athletes go off, and what will happen? We just don't know. But we have been told that the new name, because the Danaher Death Squad is to be not just disbanded, but the name is to be retired. And I think that's sad, because not only was it a cool name, not only was it one of the most unique names in jiu-jitsu, but it just means that it's the end of an era, right?
Yeah, but I like the idea of that name being retired in that sense, rather than it kind of the whole group reforming and becoming something that it never was. I mean, you look at how many teams in jiu-jitsu, in the history of jiu-jitsu, have just disbanded, and you remember that team from back when that is no more, but now it's these 5 separate teams. And every time you talk about TT, right, you can talk about all the teams that came out of that, and everybody talked about that with kind of a little bit of a nostalgia, but knowing that that's been retired.
It's true, and you're able to follow that lineage back, about how Alliance gave birth to Braza gave birth to TT gave birth to this, that, and the other, and there were so many teams came from that. From Braza split, you had TT, Checkmat, and ultimately later on you had Atos and AOJ and all these powerhouses in the world of jiu-jitsu. And this is an important point to note as well, that as sad as it is to see the end of the Danaher Death Squad, there is, in effect, a silver lining to this cloud. There is something positive to be taken from this. Whereas you had, a large amount of talent concentrated in one team, in one group, that could now mean expansion. And of course, that could end up becoming a little bit of rivalry. We could end up seeing some of these teams go head to head in a healthy way, I would hope. But ultimately, that means that jiu-jitsu will just spread all over the world. And I think that is very exciting.
Absolutely it is. And thinking about all of the growth that could come out of that.
And I think, I'm going to have to pull it up quickly, but it looks like literally while we are live on air right now, the first names have been confirmed as the B team. Craig Jones has just posted on his Instagram that he, along with Nicky Ryan, Nick Rodriguez, and Ethan Krellinston, will be called the B team. And I quote Craig's post right now: "Happy to announce the B team is going to stick together and keep training. The goal remains the same." Well, the goal should be to continue competing in the no-gi scene and I'm sure we'll see them all in action very soon. I mean, Ethan, of course, is one of the announced competitors for the 155-pound division in September, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's huge news. And we could be talking about how that change might affect Ethan in the 155-pound division. But obviously, there's a lot to digest here. Still, the news is still kind of coming up as we speak.
We do believe that John and Gordon will be staying together. I think that Gordon was very, very clear about that in an earlier post as well. There we see, actually. Let's bring this graphic up very quickly. We can see Craig Jones's post. Him top left, Nicky Ryan top right, Nick Rodriguez bottom left, and Ethan Krellinston bottom right. The first 4 members of the ex-Danaher Death Squad members to break away and to form their own team. But we do know, and we've been told very clearly by Gordon Ryan, that he is never leaving John. He's made this very clear. And so the name is retired, that some of the athletes will be going on to do their own thing. But it seems that Gordon and John will definitely stay together, because that was definitely a question mark as to exactly who would go where. And now we have the first indications, literally live while we're sat here at the in front of the camera. Pretty wild. Wow, man. Well, I think that there's not a lot left to be said right now, because we don't want to make any assumptions. We don't want to make any guesses as to how this will play out. But I'm pretty sure, but the way that things are developing right now, we're going to find out pretty soon, right?
Yeah, it looks like things will be changing very quickly.
All right. Well, that is it. Danaher Death Squad is no more, but there will be life after the DDS. Speaking of, that's all about the no-gi scene, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the gi for a while.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about gi jiu-jitsu, because, man, this is so cool. The IBJJF World Championships is back. Like I said, a big news week last week. We announced all the division for the 155-pounder Who's on Board Championships. Danaher Death Squad dropped the nuclear bomb that they're going to be splitting up.
But wait, there's more.
Exactly. Wait, there is more. IBJJF World Championships. The IBJJF come and they tell us that yes, after the turbulent 2020 season where there was no World Championships, the only major tournaments that they held were the Europeans at the very beginning of the year before the shutdown, and then later in the year there was the Pan Championships in the gi. This year we're going to have a full calendar.
Yeah,
pretty much, kind of. Well, we have the Worlds, which is the big one,
right? And they brought back Brasileiros as well. The only major that we'll be missing this year is Euros, which doesn't look like it's scheduled for the calendar. But 3 of the 4 majors are back, and that's exciting news.
So what are those? Those are, let's see, Pans in September. Brasileiros is taking place
September, October.
The World Championships is taking place in December. And you also have the World No Gi is going to take place in October. October. And then November is World Masters.
That's right.
So, wow. But yeah, the Worlds, man. The Worlds is special. The Worlds is something else. This is different. There is just something really unique about Worlds. And I think that it was probably the one tournament that people missed the most that last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, the energy in what's typically the Walter Pyramid, but in the World Championship arena, wherever it is just different. It's an absolutely different environment. There feels like there's stakes on the line. There's a real team feeling in the crowd. You can my favorite thing at Worlds is looking out of the crowd, and you can tell exactly who's sitting where, right? That's Gracie Baja, that's Atos, that's Checkmat, that's where Alliance is sitting. It just feels like it feels like a World Cup. Yeah,
it does actually. That's a great description for it. It's the Worlds is something special, and you're right that the pyramid is intrinsically linked with that. And unfortunately, the pyramid is not going to be the venue of choice for this year's World Championships. It's going to be taking place in Anaheim at the same arena where No-Gi Worlds has been held traditionally over the last couple of years, and also 2019 ADCC. So same place, but December 9th through 12th in Anaheim, California, the IBJJF 2021 World Championships will be held. And I think that's amazing. That is something really special people are very excited for. But it's not the only major. Well, I mean, we mentioned there's the major tournaments, but there's another big piece of IBJJF news.
Yeah, and this one feels like it has a lot of gravity to it. The IBJJF, along with the 3 major tournaments this year, is also going to be hosting 2 Grand Prix divisions during Jiu-Jitsu Con, which is the same week as Masters Worlds.
This is super cool. This is something that Jiu-Jitsu fans may remember from the last one they held was in 2019. It was an 8-man no-gi heavyweight Grand Prix. So IBJJF are back, and they're going to be holding 2 4-man brackets, 1 at middleweight and 1 at heavyweight. So it'll be middleweight up to middleweight, and then the heavyweight tournament will be heavyweight and above. So heavyweight, super heavyweight, and ultra heavyweight combined, in effect, in absolute. But 2 4-man brackets, and so far they've announced 2 competitors, 1 from each division. Tynan Dalpra is the first black belt announced for the middleweight bracket, and then Felipe Pena is the first athlete announced for the heavyweight bracket. 2 very different athletes to announce as the first competitors.
Yeah, you know, Tynan has been having an incredible breakout year his first year at black belt, and you know, he's been tested, but he hasn't, I think, been tested by a lot of guys that are maybe world class in the middleweight division. He's definitely proven that he can hang there, but I think the Grand Prix will be a huge test for him.
Well, hopefully so. But I mean, you look at the opportunities that he's had, and he's competed as much as possible.
Absolutely.
You know, almost every weekend you see the results coming in. Tynan Dalpra has won gold here. Tynan Dalpra has won gold in this IBJJF tournament. Tynan Dalpra has been here, and he's been cleaning up. In fact, he's only had 1 loss in his entire black belt run so far. He was promoted right at the end of 2020, and you know, since then, in his rookie season, let's say, he only had 1 loss, and that was a very close, incredible match against Mika Galvao on EUG, which was a 6-minute match. So, you know, kind of technically IBJJF rules, but with a twist. But you know, he's faced every challenge in front of him and handled it more than capably. But this is an interesting opportunity, as you said, to put him up against a stacked bracket, you know, a 4-man bracket, but you know the IBJJF are only going to be inviting the very top tier.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to go much further than that than to say that the other member of the other Grand Prix is Felipe Pena, right? They went the top dog, #1 pound for pound right off the bat. So this is the caliber of opponent we're looking for both of these guys, and this is going to be an absolutely wild double Grand Prix.
Yeah, I gotta say, I am really looking forward to this. I love the IBJJF's initiative in hosting these gi tournaments, invitational tournaments. In fact, a pro tournament, because you know, anybody can enter an IBJJF Open, right? Anybody can just register, pay their money, and sign up. But this, you got to get invited to this. This is a big deal. So super excited for that. We're expected to see more names coming in the next couple of weeks, and we'll announce them as we get them. But just a heads up, the registration for Worlds is not open yet.
Correct, yeah. But the black belts, at least black belt adults, will need 36 points to register. So the black belts who are intending on competing in Worlds, and if you haven't gotten your points yet, now's the time to go. There are opens all over the place. Pans is a great opportunity to get your points as well.
Well, Pans is actually, registration is closed, stuff filled up, and I'm expecting World to fill up pretty quick as well. I mean, you know, when these tournaments come around, they're so big, people are not going to waste any time in getting in on these. So, yeah, super exciting though, man. We'll dive into Pans a little bit more over the next couple of weeks as well, because right at the beginning of September, we've got the IBJJF Pan Championships. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a really big one. But yeah, we'll get into that a little bit closer to the time and start looking at those divisions and identifying some of the front runners for that. So, moving on, man, BJJ Bet. BJJ Bet will be hosting an 8-man middleweight no-gi tournament. We're talking about how these high-level invitational tournaments are so much fun, right? When they bring in the best names and it's invite only. This is a good one. This is a really good one. Now, just a little caveat, a little bit of news. If you haven't heard, that unfortunately Felipe Pena is out of his super fight with Nicholas Marigali at BJJ Bet. That's a real shame. But it was a pretty serious injury that took him out, right?
Yeah, I think it was a pec strain or a pec, something related to his pec that was very a devastating injury. He could be out for a little bit.
Yeah, put him in hospital. Unfortunately, like you said, a pretty nasty injury. However, he has confirmed that he will not need surgery. and it should be about 6 weeks recovery, and he will be able to get back into action. It's a partial rupture of the pectoralis major. I hope I'm saying that right. But I think that's the big pec in Latin. But yeah, a partial rupture, a partial tear, and he doesn't need surgery. But yeah, about 6 weeks or so, and he should be able to start training again. So that takes him out of this match with Marigali, and that's one that everybody was looking forward to. But that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. There's a ton of other matches. Ryder Zuchi's turn is stepping up to face Marigali. There are a bunch of really high-profile super fights. But let's get into the Grand Prix. Let's get into this 8-man. Okay, reel off some of the names. Who have we got in this tournament?
Yeah, where do we start? I think you start with Leandro Lo, right? His first no-gi match since ADCC 2017.
That is huge, man. The first time in nearly 4 years. 4 years. Wow, that is massive. But it's, he's got an interesting match first round. Yeah. Rafael Paganini of Alliance. Not exactly the biggest and best known names from the the no-gi scene, but a very capable black belt out of Alliance. But that's probably a good thing, right? Your first match back in no-gi after 4 years off. You probably want to ease back in, because that other side, that quarterfinal, and the winner that Leandro could meet is going to be the winner of a absolutely insane match. Torquinho, aka Huzima Palhares, the former UFC fighter, one of the most fearsome leg lock exponents of all time. Chaotic evil, for sure, right? This guy, just an absolute savage, is going to be taking on the lone American, William Tackett, in the opening round.
And this one's mind-blowing. I don't know what to do with this match, because William Tackett has a leg lock game all his own. And, Torquinho was kind of on the cutting edge of leg locks, maybe back ADCC 2015, 2013.
Earlier, 2011.
Right, but it's been a while since we've seen him, and I'm curious if he's keeping up with the leg lock game, and how much his lack of experience is going to lack of recent experience, lack of time on the mat is going to come into play against Tackett, who we've seen compete every weekend since the beginning of 2020.
That's a good point, man. Torquinho's been around a very, very long time. He's not young, and if you think about it, a large part of his game and what makes his jiu-jitsu so fearsome is the fact that he's just so physically imposing, To be honest, I need to double check as to exactly what the weight limit is for this. It's a middleweight tournament, so
88 kilos, I think.
88 kilos. I don't know, man. I feel like Torquinho's going to have to chop off a leg to make 88. We've seen him way, way north of 200 pounds in the past, and 88's about 190, so I don't know. That's a tough one. But I would say that a big part of his submission game in the past was simply the fact that he's so physically imposing. He's just able to grab something, rip and twist it before people really have the opportunity to address it in a technical manner. Now, if Tackett can take that into account, if he has an answer for that, is able to handle the physicality that Torquinho brings, then I don't know. Then maybe he could fire back with one of his own. But it's a very interesting one for me. I don't know whether Torquinho has managed to keep up with the developments in the leg lock technology, let's say, right?
Right, and how much will that come into play? And specifically, you mentioned the physicality. We've seen how Tackett handles maybe some more physically imposing opponents, and on the other side of the bracket, that exact opponent, Lucas Barboza.
Lucas the Hulk Barboza. He has got a place in the quarterfinals against the qualifier winner, Servio Tullio. So Servio Tullio actually had to fight his way into this tournament. There was an open space reserved for the winner of a no-gi event, and Servio Tullio actually fought in an 8-man bracket to get into this bracket, where he will face off with Lucas Hulk Barboza in the opening round. Now, Servio Tullio, of course, is a black belt, trains with Felipe Pena, a very capable black belt. We saw him have a really good no-gi match with Isaac Bayens not too long ago as well, right, on Big Deal Pro.
That's right, and he got to show off a little bit of his leg lock skills, and his work against Isaac. Isaac is a really physical competitor, so this might mean for a good matchup against Hulk.
I gotta say though, the way that Isaac was able to athletically manipulate Servio, let's say, in the match, and was able to dictate the pace of the match, for me means that Hulk Hulk should have no problems in doing that against Servio Tullio. And I hope that Servio Tullio has learned his lesson from going up against somebody like Isaac Bayens and is fully prepared for what Hulk will bring. Because, you know, two very different athletes, and Hulk has way more experience no-gi than Isaac Bayens.
That's true. I think Tullio is a bit smaller too, or at least he qualified for ADCC in 2019 at 77, I believe.
He did, that's correct.
So he could be a bit smaller, but it looks like he might be putting on a little bit of size. But size difference against Hulk for sure matters.
Yes, it does. You know? Yeah, we've seen that in the past. Hulk, when he has the physical advantage, he likes to use it. And then the final quarterfinal match is Mika Galvao in his black belt debut up against Mauricio Oliveira. So Mauricio Oliveira actually he came in as a replacement for who it was originally supposed to be Wagner Hoscher, I believe, but then Wagner Hoscher wasn't able to compete in this tournament, and then Mauricio Oliveira stepped up. Now, it's not to say that Mika and Wagner were never matched up in the bracket. You know, that the bracket was made after, but Mauricio Oliveira and Mika Galvao will face off in the first round. Now, this is a very difficult one to call because, of course, Mika Galvao, we've seen what he is capable of. You know, he has fought for us on Who's Number One. He won gold at the IBJJF Pan No-Gi Championships. Kid's a phenomenon, no secret about that. But really, nobody knows what to expect from Mauricio Oliveira's no-gi game. Mauricio Oliveira, very good, very tough black belt, competes out of Dream Art and trains alongside guys like Isaac Bayens. Just, you know, we're talking about how good Isaac is in no-gi. So you have to think he's been training no-gi and probably in preparation to get Isaac ready for those kind of events. But we really don't know what his no-gi game looks like. So, big question mark.
Absolutely. And given that we do know exactly what Mika Galvao's no-gi game at least looked like, because it's evolving so frequently and so fast, you have to imagine he's the favorite going into this. But if he moves on, it's not a cakewalk the rest of the way, right?
Well, we'll get into the bracket breakdown maybe a little later this week and actually give our predictions for who wins this. But I've got to say, let's just pull that bracket up one more time, because for me this is really fascinating. You got Leandro Lowe, Rafael Paganini first round, Toquinho versus William Tackett first round, Lucas Hulk Barboza, Servio Tullio first round, and then Mika Galvao, Mauricio Oliveira first round. That is a wild tournament. This is going to be IBJJF rules, 10 minutes with points and heel hooks. So really looking forward to that. That goes down August 1st. You can watch it right here on FloGrappling.com. Corey and myself will be doing English language commentary from this very desk. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to a bit of an update about the Danaher Death Squad. Though we're gonna have to, it's gonna take a while for me to get used to not using that name, right?
The B team, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I guess, yeah. Nicky Ryan, no longer a member of the Danaher Death Squad, announced earlier, literally while we were discussing it earlier, that we'll be joining Craig Jones, Nick Rodriguez, and Ethan Crownston as part of the B team. But Nicky Ryan was, well, he suffered a pretty nasty injury at Who's Number One just recently, right? And but he came out with some more details as to the nature of the injury, right? You want to break it down for us?
Yeah, Nicky made a post, I believe, on Friday afternoon, kind of updating the outcome of his knee injury. He said he had a doctor check it out, and that he's very likely going to need surgery. He's still debating between whether he wants to get it repaired or removed. It's a meniscus injury.
Right. So there's some options here.
Right.
And what he decides will basically determine exactly how long he spends out of action, right?
But it could be anywhere between 6 weeks at the short end to up to 6 months if he decides to go the longer route and get it repaired.
Wow. So you can see this match right here. This is the Who's Number One match with Dante Leon. Who's Number One Road to ADCC match against Dante Leon that actually saw Nicky injure his leg midway through this match. And well, I just want to give a shout out because Nicky's wrestling looked absolutely phenomenal in this match. The best we've ever seen from him in his ability to wrestle up from these positions. But it was during one of these wrestling exchanges that it is believed that Ryan tore his meniscus. And you can actually see there is a moment coming up in this highlight video. You can see when Ryan walks back into the center of the mat, all of a sudden he's not walking properly anymore. And I mean, his ability to get in on these shots looked phenomenal. It really was. He was so deep in on Dante and so controlling. But here it is. Here's the moment where all of a sudden Nicky Ryan's not able to walk properly. And after this point, well, this was about 7 or 8 minutes into the match. 8.5 minutes into the match, he pulls guard and he sees out the remainder of the match and with a bum leg.
Yeah, which is absolutely impressive for so many reasons. His ability to maintain his guard with one leg, and of course the strategy to pull guard. But he looked so good in the first half of this match. His wrestling up with against the guy who does that, right? Dante Leon is maybe one of the best in the world at wrestling up from his guard and at wrestling in general. So I think for me, this was the best Nick he's ever looked in his career, and really wishing him a speedy recovery, because a 6-month setback could
derail the momentum.
Absolutely.
And he had some great momentum because, of course, he had 3 consecutive victories, 2 Who's Number 1 matches, and against PJ Barch, Gabriel Almeida, and then this great match, under ADCC rules against Dante Leon. Nicky's looking better than he ever has.
Right, and one of the biggest drawbacks to his game was always that he took such a long rest period in between matches, and that could have really taken away from his ability to progress. And we've seen the results of him competing over and over and over again once a month. So to halt that train would be just, it could be a really bad thing for the momentum he's picking up.
It's true. Yeah. Well, we wish him a speedy recovery, and whatever happens, I'm sure he'll make an informed decision. But I really hope that we do see him back on the mat, healthy soon, and that he doesn't rush the recovery to come back as quickly as possible. Cool. Should we break down some of the biggest results from the weekend?
Yeah, let's talk about the weekend. Lots of jiu-jitsu this weekend, and I think we should maybe start with Fight to Win, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, Fight to Win, 178. Yes, so 178 featured the main event, Victor Hugo up against Guilherme Augusto in a gi match. But let's take a look, first of all, at the comeback of Xande Ribeiro, the no-gi comeback. First time we've seen Xande Ribeiro compete no-gi since, I want to say, the 2017 ADCC. No, he had a match against Wagner last year.
That's right.
Yes, had a no-gi match against Wagner Hochschild last year. And of course, that was a draw. That was on the very first BJJ Bet. But since then, Xande came back, and he said that he wanted to play a lot more top game against Felipe Trovo in this match right here. And Felipe is a very dangerous guard player. But look at this. This is what Xande's best known for, right? And he goes for this amazing closed guard armbar, one of the techniques that he used so well back at that 2017 ADCC, and a phenomenal attack. But Felipe Trovo, a very flexible and very slippery kind of customer, was able to find his way out of it. Xande already posted an Instagram live breakdown of how he can actually refine the technique and make it better. But look at this closed guard armbar. The way that he gets there, man, I don't know how he does it, really.
I have this armbar just seared into my head as well, because there's a photo of it right outside.
Right on our desk.
On our desk.
Yeah.
so as soon as I saw him throw that up, I was like, it looks very Xande style, right?
Very familiar.
Even his passing just looks so fluid. He moves like he's been doing jiu-jitsu for the length of my life, which is, of course, true, right? He's been doing jiu-jitsu forever.
Funny that. Yeah. No, he looked great, and always great to see Xande back in action. And he's made no secret of it as well, that this is him sort of dipping his toes back in the water, because he wants to make another run. He wants to make one final run at not only the IBJJF World Championships later this year, but also one final run at the ADCC Championships next year. He missed 2019 due to injury. He had to get a wrist surgery, and he was out for some time with that. But he's looking forward to get back on the mats there for one last run at ADCC Gold in 2022.
Hypothetically, Xande takes gold at ADCC 2022. Does that make him the oldest champion ever?
Ooh, that's a good question. Possibly, yeah, because I think he'll probably be about 41 possibly by the time that tournament comes around. Maybe, yeah. Very interesting. And he already has an ADCC record. He has a record for the most ADCC matches in history. Nobody has competed as many ADCC World Championship matches as Xande. He's competed a lot, and I don't think anybody's going to come close. Victor Hugo also got the win. As we mentioned there, it was a decision win against Guilherme Augusto. And this was a match that shows once again that big men can move really, really well. And Victor Hugo showed his flexibility in inverting underneath Guillermo Augusto. He was looking to suck up an E-bar, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things he does best is just get underneath his opponent and pull those legs through.
Pretty solid defense, though. I gotta say, Guillermo Augusto, he kind of definitely knew he was coming, right?
Yeah, Guillermo did the right thing too. And every time Victor went for a knee bar, Guillermo tried to turn it into 50-50, which is the right move if you're trying to slow down a big knee bar machine that is Victor Hugo.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of Victor's main attacks. We've seen him tap out some very high-level black belts with leg locks. And Guillermo Augusto was able to, you can see there, just turn his leg out of danger. It was almost straight, but he managed to turn it into this 50-50. And ultimately, Victor Hugo was able to get the win via unanimous decision. But there, once again, look at the flexibility of Hugo, man. The way that he's just, he's got like a 240-pound guy on top of him, and he's inverted like that. So
yeah, he just moves so well. His flexibility and his movement and his ability to get underneath, it's something that most men his size can't come anywhere close to. Very impressive
indeed. Nice to see both of the Six Blades guys, the big name black belts, Victor and Shanji, of course, competing on the same show as well. And then you wanted to mention as well about Finishers Open, because this plays into the upcoming Emerald City, right?
Yeah, so Finishers Open 6 went down yesterday. The winner of the men's 145-pound bracket got earned a qualifier spot in the Emerald City Invitational on August 7th.
Nice.
So, Jeff Mock walked away with 3 submission wins. And I got to say, this is going to come up in just a second here on the screen, but this foot lock he pulled off a couple of times yesterday looked absolutely nasty. Jeff earned his black belt just a week ago from J.M. Holland and Zach Maslany.
So he's putting it to good use already.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something, I was talking to some of the guys on his team, they're calling it the Mock Lock.
The mock lock.
Yeah,
wow! Look at that.
It's a forearm toe hold. He caught that a couple times on the weekend. And
so he's going for like a gable grip, and he's using the blade of his forearm to push down on the toes. Yeah. So the actual mechanics of it are just like a toe hold. But yeah, man, that's really cool.
It looks like a steamer lock. It looks a little bit like a sock lock. Actually, there's a lot of. It's really just a hybrid leg lock, and he attacks the free leg with it. It looks phenomenal.
And he hit that more than once, you say?
He hits it in, I think, the match after this as well. This was a heel hook finish from him. So he had 4 matches, 3 submission wins, survived this buggy choke.
That's a buggy choke attempt?
Buggy chokes are everywhere now.
I bet they are, yeah. Man, well, congratulations on not just getting the black belt, but also qualifying for Emerald City. Emerald City, man, that goes down on, wouldn't you say August 7th?
August 7th. And he, Jeff's first match is going to be Kennedy Maciel.
Oh, they already released the bracket?
They released his seed, so he's 16th seed and Kennedy's the 1 seed. So.
Oh, got you. Yeah, man, that's a tournament I'm really excited for. I gotta say, Emerald City is taking place in Atlantic City, and Jeff Mock will join the lineup there. A very stacked bracket. There's some really interesting names confirmed for that tournament, and but also it does have a series of super fights on there as well. But we're going to be there, right? We're going to go to Atlantic City for this one. And let's just fire off some of these names. Joshua Cisneros, John Calistine, Frank Rosenthal, Luis Quinones, Gabriel Souza, Richard Alarcon, Keith Cricoria, Gianni Grippo, Daniel Sattler, John Battle, Esteban Martinez, Kennedy Maciel, Damian Anderson, and more. My word. This is a stacked event. Really looking forward to it. 16 men, EBI rules. So that's basically submission only with overtime.
10 grand on the line for the winner, too.
All right. We'll be there. Not only that, but we also have coming up this weekend, we have Fight to Win 179. Thank you. Man, I can't count that high. But in the main event, Kennedy Maciel versus Joshua Cisneros are going to run it back, no gi. If you didn't see it earlier this year, it was an early contender for Match of the Year. And for my money as well, still a strong contender for Match of the Year. Phenomenal, really was. Kennedy Maciel, Joshua Cisneros. I'm going to run that back. Karen Antunes of Checkmat will also take on Gabby McComb in a gi match. And Jefferson Guarezi of Unity Jiu-Jitsu will be taking on Hugo Marquez of Aries in a middleweight gi match as well. That goes down July 30th. Once again, live right here on FloGrappling. That's about it for this weekend, right?
That's it, yeah.
That was a big week. That was a lot of news. Man, I gotta say, the comments are absolutely flying in about what happened with Danaher Death Squad, and of course, this is a huge topic of conversation right now. The truth is that we're still learning. We're still learning exactly how things are going to shake out. We're literally it's sort of in the process of defining who's going where. And as soon as we find these details out, of course, we'll share them with you. Gordon Ryan has confirmed that he's going to be moving to Austin, Texas. And Oliver Tarza confirmed that he'll be staying with John Danaher, which means that he'll be staying with Gordon. Greg Jones will be decamping with Nicky Ryan, Nick Rodriguez, and Ethan Crowlinston. So big moves happening, but as we said, as sad as it is to see the end of the era, the Danaher Death Squad is no more. That the possibilities of expansion and growth and just general benefits for the jiu-jitsu scene, well, could be very, very exciting indeed. That's all from us. Halti, Corey Stockton. We'll see you next time.